Hello chess friends and welcome to Out of Chess channel and welcome back to the Goldmoney Asian Rapid Tournament in 2021. So we're now in the semi-final stage. We're now in the second day of the semi-finals and really wild things happened in the semi-finals yesterday. Liren won the first day against Vladislav Artemiev in the semi-finals, but then in the second day it was simply Vladislav's day because Vladislav won the match game now in the day 2 with a clear result with 2.5 points against 1.5 points of Liren's. But even the game that Vladislav Artemiev lost against Liren, it was a completely winning game for Vladislav because he lost really the game in a tactical battle. He had a +6 position and then he blundered his piece and then he lost the game, but he got his points back and he won now the second day. So he reached now 2 additional games against Liren, and in the first additional game the game ended in a draw. So it meant now that in the second game, if Vladislav wins the game, he is the winner of the semifinals and will face, of course, 11 and older Magnus Carlsen in the super final of this very cool tournament. So let's check out now what happened now in the second additional game. Here Vladislav opened with the move knight to f3, ding d5. We have g3 after knight to f6. We have a bishop to g3. It becomes basically a King's Indian attack, so the King's Indian defense but reversed from a white perspective. Here we have castling, we have e6 and now b3. Here Vladislav Artemiev plays, I think, one of the best ways, simply plays this double fianchetto. It's really hard to play against these ideas because both of these bishops are very dangerous, although you have sort of a pawn central control. But what we love to do here from black's perspective is to play something like maybe knight to c3 and then e5, then maybe get 3 points connected, pawns connected in the center, and then have really a central pawn stop. So here after move b3 we have bishop to e7 by Liren. Liren plays a calm game. We have bishop to b2 castling and now c4 immediately by Vladislav Artemiev. What we want to get here, of course, is a clarification because of course black has the space advantage in the center. Now it's time to break it or to stop a little bit of black's progress, because in the continuation now here Liren plays, of course, to move d4. He wants, of course, as we said, to play knight to c6 and then e5. Then it could be, I think, a decent position for black. But now Vladislav plays a great move, b4, cracking the position, because even if you try to support it, of course, then you get some tactics, knight to d4 or knight to e5, liberating this long diagonal, and it's simply game over. So that's why here you have to simply protect the pawn like this. If you take, of course, the c takes b4, then you lose your centralized pawn. And when it comes to middle games, so far the centralized pawns are more important than the pawns on the edge of the board. So that's why here Liren protected the pawn with queen to c7 and Vladislav simply takes. We have e5, very nice move also by Liren. But now Vladislav plays again a very aggressive move, breaks now the pawn central control that black has, of course, this advanced pawn on d4. So that's why Vladislav Artemiev doesn't want to tolerate this pawn and plays now immediately e3. If you play, of course, here d takes e3, then f takes e3 or d takes e3 will happen, and still you have this weak pawn on e5. This could be again a long-term problem. So that's why here in this particular position Ding tried to play bishop to g4. He's trying also now to play the move e4, and here the Vladislav Artemiev plays, of course, h3. He doesn't want to again tolerate this very annoying pin. You have to take now, because if you play now bishop to h5, then of course you get g4. You maybe can retreat to g6, but then again you lose your d4 pawn. So that's why here in this particular position Ding had to take. So he played bishop to f3, queen to f3, and you see now Vladislav Artemiev has really here a great center. Now he's threatening also some queen to b7 ideas. Then after queen to b7, bishop to b7, and then the rook could be hanging. So that's why here knight to c6 played by Ding, and we have now e takes d4. We have e takes d4, d3. We have bishop to c5, but now knight to d2, and you see now what white has accomplished here is, of course, a very powerful position with this bishop pair. The bishops are still good, and what we have, of course, here is also a great control of the e4 square. So in the continuation we have a knight to e5 here by Ding. We have queen to f5. This is actually a great example how Vladislav Artemiev, after he gets attacked, finds simply the best next active square for the queen. So the queen can stay a little bit longer there. Of course, you cannot play g6 because you lose the knight, so you have to make something first in order maybe to attack the queen further away from this very active square. So here the rook from a to e8. We have now knight to b3, knight to d7. This was now huge mistake by Liren, because simply better is here to play simply b6, because if you play now knight takes d4 immediately, then you get simply queen to d8, and you see now even even if you get back with your knight, then queen to d3 is simplifying the game. After maybe queen to d3, knight to d3, okay, maybe you can even try knight takes c5, but knight to c5. Although of course white has the bishop pair against these two knights, I don't see clear ideas how white should win this game. This game is more and more simplified, so that's why I think this game in its top grandmaster level would end in a draw. So here, as we said, knight from f to d7 here by Ding, huge mistake, because he's leaving simply his pawn unprotected. Bishop to d4, bishop to d4, knight to d4, and now comes this idea g6. But now after move queen to f4, here Vladislav Artemiev plays a great pin, because so far you cannot take out the d3 pawn because your queen is hanging. So now queen to d8 has to be played. Now Ding has of course some problems, because Vladislav Artemiev can protect his d3 pawn. But now knight to c5, we have knight to b3 here by Vladislav Artemiev. Now okay, Ding takes, but now again a great move, great counter attack here by Artemiev. He plays now the move queen to e4. The problem is now you cannot play discoveries, you cannot play something like knight to c6, because simply your knight on d3 is hanging, so it's of course then a losing game. So that's why here great counter attack with move queen to e4. In the continuation we have rook to e7, and now f4. Great move, kicking away the queen, kicking away, pardon me, the knight. We have queen to b6, now queen to d4 here. After queen to d4, knight to d4, and now okay, this knight is attacked, but now a great move by Vladislav Artemiev, bishop to d5, locking now the d file, and now this knight will be taken in a couple more moves. So here knight to c4, we have bishop to c4 here. Ding Liren takes, but now bishop to d3 is also a great opportunity. Here Ding Liren has of course the counter-attack possibility with the move rook to e3, but no problem with the move bishop to c2. Vladislav Artemiev simplifies the game and has now an extra piece, which is now of course a completely winning endgame. Here rook to g3, first to check, another problem, king to f2, rook to d1, rook to d1, and now after rook to h3, okay, Ding Liren has some pawns, but of course this is still a better position. Now Vladislav Artemiev has the opportunity to occupy the 7th rank, and with the move bishop to b3 also to attack further the weak f7 pawn. So here in the continuation now comes this idea immediately, bishop to b3, rook to h5, we have rook to d7, you see, rook to f5. Ding Liren has to play now passively with his pieces, so he has to protect first this f7 weakness. King to g3, we have now b5, rook to a7, king to g7, and now rook to d7, h6, king to g4. Here Vladislav Artemiev is playing sort of a Zugzwang position. He's forcing now Ding to play some more moves, just in order maybe to finally, when the protection of the f7 is left, then of course to take out simply the weak f7 pawn. So here king to g3, king to f8, we have bishop to c2, rook to c5, bishop to b3. Again, this pawn is hanging on f7, so that's why it forces always here to get back. We have rook to d5, trying to simplify the game. We have rook to d5, bishop to d5, and now here the move b4. Of course Ding Liren is getting his pawn on a dark square where it cannot be attacked by the light square bishop. So king to h4, we have king to g7, f5, great move here by Vladislav Artemiev. He's trying to split the pawn chain. We have g takes f5, but now the king can come here on very cool square, king to g5, and now this bishop is controlling everything. This pawn is protected by the bishop. Even if black's king goes now towards the queen side, still this pawn will always be protected, and then white's king can grab all of this pawn. So it's now completely a theoretical win here for white. So h4, we have king to f5, h3, king to g4, h2. Now again Vladislav Artemiev is attacking this pawn, king to g3, f5, king takes h2, we have king to f6, king to g3. Now of course first protecting, first to check here, and now after king to f3 we have f4. Now with the move bishop to h7, here Ding Liren is pretty much forced to step back from the defense of the pawn. Here king to d4, now king to f4, here king to c3, now bishop to g8, king to b2, king to e5, bishop to b3, king to b2. Here of course playing sort of a Zugzwang, and after king to c5. In this position Ding Liren resigned, which means that Vladislav Artemiev is now in the finals. Congratulations to Vladislav Artemiev, to the European chess champion. I'm really surprised a little bit, I have to say, but when we watch now Vladislav's tournament through the whole time now, it was a perfect tournament. He finished on the 3rd place in this preliminaries. He never was risked to maybe not to qualify in the quarterfinal stage. Then he also won great games now in the quarterfinals, now in the semifinals. Here in the second game especially, he won really beautiful games against Liren. Even, as I said, even the game that he lost now in the second day, it was a completely winning game for Vladislav. So in my opinion, he is now the deserved finalist, and he's waiting now this other match game between Magnus Carlsen and Levon Aronian. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Interesting ideas of this double fianchetto setup of the King's Indian attack from White's perspective. If you want to see more games from the tournament, check out my coverage so far with some great games played by Magnus Carlsen and some other great players. And if you want to see maybe the best chess games of all times, check out my best chess games of all time series. Here's also the link. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.